last month you put out a video talking about how pursuing good health is not just about ignorance. It's not just an ignorance issue, but it's a spiritual issue. There's a spiritual component to pursuing good health. Why do you think that that's the case?
Yeah, well, it's this topic of ignorance versus iniquities is kind of how I've always said it. And I think I got it from somebody else, so it's not my original idea. But the whole idea is that that we can be led by ignorance, and that by itself is not an excuse. Like God says we are destroyed for our lack of knowledge, and there's tons of
That's right.
verses talking about deception and all that. And so we can't blame it on our lack of knowledge. We have to figure it out and learn and grow in wisdom. But once, this is something else. This is probably something else you're asking about. Like, what's the one thing that is harming people? This is probably the second thing. It's people tell me all the time, like, I know what I'm supposed to do, I'm just not doing it. And for me, I'm just like, well, why not? Like what's missing there? And that's more a matter, at least from my understanding, a matter of iniquity, to where it's like we do
Yeah.
things knowing that they're not good for us, but we do them anyway. And that's where I think, again, as Christians, you need a community, you need people around you calling you out. You need to have be in the Word. You need to be asking for wisdom, because there's a self-destruction, self-sabotage I think we're all exposed to, that if we don't kind of know our enemy, know what we're up against, it creeps in, it becomes a normalcy, it becomes just part of the standard of living around us. And the standard, at least in my opinion, of the world is pretty terrible. Like, it's a pretty low standard. People are always asking like how they can kind of get back to living like the rest of the people they know. And like, I don't think that's the goal. Like, I think the goal is to figure out what is your standard for your family. And it doesn't need to be my standard. It could be somebody else's standard, but you need to figure out what is the standard for you and your house, and hold each other accountable to that. And I think, again, once you start seeing the fruit of it, it becomes easier. Give it a couple
Yeah.
years and it's no big deal. Initially, it will be hard making changes, but stop comparing yourself to that, because those iniquities are really what I think destroys on more of a spiritual, deeper level.
I love that. I love that idea. Yeah, it really isn't just an ignorance. I mean, Paul talks about it, that which I know I'm supposed to do, I don't do, and the things I do, I know I shouldn't be doing. Right? There's that
Exactly.
spiritual element to this as well. It's not just, yeah, the people perish for a lack of knowledge. Like, it's not that I just don't know the things. It's that, like, there's something about this that's really difficult. It's hard. It's the mind, body, and the spirit sort of all sort of resisting against that which God has designed me to pursue, to be in good health, to be in good community with people. I love the point you made about finding accountability, because obviously I think for a Christian, we kind of understand, okay, we're taught about it in church, we read about it in the Bible. I need people around me so I can avoid sin, right? Like, but you also kind of need people around you to make good, healthy deposits of wisdom into your life, so that over time we become the sort of person that makes wise decisions. It's not just a spiritual aspect, it's also a wisdom aspect, and it's also like best practices and learning the right things so I can make the right decisions. Does that seem like that vibes with what you're talking about?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, yeah, isolation is paganism.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the definition. And we want to be yeah, we want to be corporately together, worship together, and as a household together on our decisions and what we're doing and kind of the direction we're going. My wife and I, about 5 years ago, when our life really changed, we had a really hard like really, really difficult situation in our marriage. And it was a failing of me primarily, and a failing of my wife as well. And God brought so much fruit and life out of that. But
That's awesome.
it was only after that happened, it got us asking the question, like, well, what are we really doing here? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Like, obviously we have kids, we're about to have our fourth kid. At that time we had two. And we're just like,
Awesome.
what is the objective of the Lake family? Like, what are we trying to execute here? And that was kind of the first time we asked that question. And it was by asking that again in prayer, through wisdom, and asking for wisdom to answer it well, was like, okay, well, this is where we want to be. We want to raise godly children. We want them to advance his kingdom. Like,
Yes.
we are here for them. Like, and they're going to be here for us one day too, like when we need them. And they're already giving back to us in amazing ways. But like, we
Wonderful.
want to take this is our first mission field right here. So how can we take this and witness to them well, and then start to extend beyond that? And I think it gave us some clarity in a couple of different categories of what we were trying to accomplish with our day to day too, like very practically. I wanted to not miss out on my kids growing up. Like I didn't want to just be working all the time to where I couldn't enjoy them, but I also want to be providing for them well enough to where they could have the life that God wanted them to have, and that we could be a blessing to other people, and we could be fruitful and all that kind of stuff. And so
Yeah.
we started asking those questions, and what it led to was kind of the life we have now. And it happened so fast. Like it was amazing. It happened in probably 2 years after that question. Like everything that we had prayed about and thought we wanted, like it came true, and even better than we thought, honestly. And so now I think the thing that I've realized is that, we receive not because we ask not. Like there are things I don't even know what to ask
Yes.
for. And I think for me, where I always start with this is and I may be wrong in this, you might have to clarify from a biblical theology perspective, but I always ask, like God, like expose my idols. Cause like, I don't know what to pray for, like I don't even know like if what I'm praying for is good. And then the second thing I ask is like, grant me the wisdom to know. And I think
It's good.
in doing that, it's given me such clarity whenever I get in sticky situations. I'm just like, I don't know what to do here. God seems to like really shine a light on what direction I need to go and makes it pretty clear. Whether I see it or not, like he makes it happen sometimes. He just like shoves me through the door. But I think
Yes.
the whole point is just that we don't often like sit down and even ask these kind of questions or pray about these kind of things. We kind of just exist, and we're not. Again, I think we lack intentionality with health, with our spiritual
Right.
life, with our children, with our family, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's my take.
That's great. And that's what we want for. I mean, that's why this podcast exists. Is, I think maybe why you do a lot of the work you do is that we want people to have tools in their tool belt to be able to begin the conversations, educate themselves, to be able to make the best decisions for themselves. And so I think what you're geared to do is help people do this. And so with that being said, like, let's see if we can, the next couple minutes, just help people. So let's say there is somebody who's a Christian, and they're like, okay, yes, you got me. I'm off the food pyramid. I want to find the right practitioner to help me do the work that you're talking about. What if they're looking for a holistic doctor, holistic provider? What are some of the warnings to consider before deciding what type of doctor to work with? What are
Well,
some
I
things
think,
we can avoid?
yeah, I think if somebody is starting to tell you like this is your only option, and it's something to do with the pharmaceutical industry, like as the only option, or a surgery, that usually you'd want to get a second opinion on that. In my experience, that just isn't always the case. Sometimes it can be, but not always.
Yeah.
Now, the way that people use me, because I'm not acting as a primary care for anybody, I act as like a consultant for all my clients. Like they're not patients, they're clients. They're coming to me because they want my help, which I love. Like that's what I want, is I want proactive clients. But the way that they use me is that they'll have a primary care physician that does all their basic stuff, does all their screenings, does all their whatever, lab testing, or not sometimes. And so they'll be like, okay, yeah, I have you. My insurance approves you. I can go to you if I need to. Good to have. Nice to know. And then what a lot of people do is they'll find like an alternative practitioner, somebody that they really like, that they align with, that can provide them a different perspective. And if you can't get labs from that provider, if they're not able to order them or they're outside of state, like I am, like I have clients, all around the world, like I'm not going through insurance. Like they get labs in their local region. And in the United States, you can order your own labs, like except for a couple of different states, like you can order your own lab panel. They might be a little bit, they actually probably are going to be cheaper because you're not going through insurance if you're paying cash. And so you have to kind of like prioritize what matters. But the problem is most people don't know how to read them. And so you're not really sure what you're looking at. You can always take them to your doctor, again, see what they say. Or if you have somebody else that you're working with, a consultant, health coach, whatever, you can ask them too and just see what their opinion is. And again, you have to be smart with it, because if you have a true disease, you don't want to just go and miss the disease. But for more times than not, if you're going to your doctor and they're like, oh yeah, you look fine. Okay, I look fine according to this guy's perspective on my labs. Apparently, I don't have any raging diseases in my body. Great, there's no cancer. So now what? Now what do I do to actually implement a strategy to fix these problems? So there's a lot of different options like that. That's one way to kind of consider it, maybe as an option. That's at least how my clients typically use me.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So you're saying, hey, listen, you maybe have a doctor that works, you get some labs done. Hey, great, you're not dying. Like they might give you these like really wide ranges, but you're like, okay, I'm not dying, but I want to get optimal. Like I want to perform at the best level possible. Then I can go to somebody that's sort of someone in your field. They can say, hey, help me interpret some of these other numbers, because they've declared I don't have a lymphoma or something, but I do want to get better, and I'm not feeling optimal. And the best option for me is like, hey, take take Prilosec and maybe jump. I don't want to do any of that. Like, maybe you can help me. So you're saying that maybe that's the way you pursue helping, getting some sort of supplemental holistic practitioner that can help you in that respect.
Yeah, and again, if they're functional medicine based, and they're even if they're naturopathy or whatever, like there's a lot of different options out there. I think the biggest thing is just that they need to help you implement the plan. Um,
Yes,
it's not just about information. You have to have somebody help you implement
that's
the
good.
right information for you. And so that's where I've kind of made my shift the last 4 years of like, hey, I'm not just going to do a bunch of labs and then send you on your way and we'll talk in 3 months. Like that is nothing for you. But if you're like, hey, what do I eat? What does my family eat? What time do I eat it? What supplement do I take? Why am I having this symptom? Like, why am I feeling fatigued after my doctor gave me Synthroid? Like, why am I still not
Mm,
losing weight after they put me on metformin or whatever? And it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, like now we have some problems. Like now we have some tangible things that we can be working on, and these are strategies that I've seen to work. So like, let's follow these strategies, and this is the timeline you should be expecting some results. And people, when they know that, it's much like if you're I had this client one time, she's like, before I started working with you, I felt like I was treading water in the ocean and I couldn't see any land. And once I started working with you, I felt like you gave me like an island to swim towards. And like now I know when I'm putting my effort towards it, like I know where I'm going and I know that I'm going to get there and I know that I'm moving in the right direction. If you don't know what direction you're going and you're just treading water, you're not going to move there very fast. So you're going to be, if anything,
right.
stalling out and losing steam because you don't have confidence. And so you have to kind of know what you're shooting for, what your goals are, and you need somebody to help you implement that. It would be my biggest advice.